Hello, legendary listeners, and welcome to the Legendary Ladies Podcast. It has been 2.5 weeks, and I have not stopped listening to, singing about, talking about, thinking about, seeing things about Wicked. So we decided for our 2024 grand finale, our final podcast of the year, going into the holiday season, since it has lingered with us, we've decided it should linger with you. We are going to talk about the Wicked movie. So we've got a lot of things we want to chat about. We're going to talk about our experiences with the musical. We're going to talk about some of the general ideas of why this musical is still lingering with us 2.5 weeks after it came out, why it still feels like it literally came out a couple days ago, how this musical has done for moving, from the actual stage to screen. And then we have put together a top 5. And I should tell you, I propped this on Morgan and Kat about 20 minutes ago. Which actually, no, it
that's
was more
giving
like
you
5 minutes
grace,
ago.
like 5 minutes ago.
No, yeah,
10 minutes
5 minutes ago. So we were gonna put together our top 5 songs from the movie, and bear in mind, it's not like the soundtrack song, it's the sequence. So like what it's like, not just what it's like when you're listening to it, but the actual sequence that you see in the film.
Like the music video element of it.
Yes, there you go. So we're gonna kind of get rolling. Couple of things. A few of us are in different places than we normally record. So thank you for your patience. Morgan is like, yes. So Morgan's pet sitting right now.
I'm dog sitting. I'm dog sitting this week, and I forgot my normal microphone setup. So if my audio sounds weirder than usual, that's why. Apologies. It is my mom's dog's Ralphie's fault and not my fault.
And half of Southern California's power was out over the last couple of days because of these major Santa Ana winds. So I wonder if that's one of the reasons my Wi-Fi is so spotty, because people are just now getting their power back. But they turned it off, thank God, knock on wood. In San Diego, at least, we avoided any major fires. So they did a power safety shutoff with good reason. But you guys, I was working in that wind, and I was covered from head to toe in gear. I had straight up like those glasses that are basically goggles, hat, beanie to protect my ears. I had a handkerchief on, like everything to keep myself from not getting windburnt and not getting dusty. And I had this small little strip on my nose that is still chafed. And that was the only part of my body exposed to the wind. And I was like, thank God that wasn't my whole body. Like that's how it was 60, 65 mile an hour wind gusts that we were working in. Yeah, the animals were like, this is not fun. We don't like this.
This is just something that we don't have to deal with on the East Coast. Like what I'm dealing with personally right now is mysterious drones in the skies of New Jersey. That there are no explanations for, and that everybody's like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's like, the aliens are coming. I want to believe, and I do believe.
You know what? If they will help us, please.
Like, I was on Facebook earlier today, and my cousin had like a video. She lives 5 minutes away from me. She had a video of one of the drones in the sky, and I was like, uh-oh. Where did they come from? Where did they go? We don't know.
I'm gonna accept it. I'm okay. Just the aliens are here, and I'm fine.
It's
with that.
It's fine. It can't be worse. It can't be worse, right?
That's how I feel. I don't think it could be worse as our current state. So why not? Why not do it?
Makes it better.
We do have a comment from Rachel here. The top 5 gayest Elphaba and Galinda moments, which is interesting. Maybe we'll start with this, but I believe in the
you should be well versed in this.
Oh yeah. If you guys don't know, I wrote a gay Wicked Witch and Glinda comic.
That's right.
Because it's what people wanted. But what I find really interesting when I watched the show, like the Broadway show, and again, we were doing research. We are trying to figure out. We watched Wizard of Oz. We watched all this. We read the books. We did a lot just to do research of what people have done with the franchise. So we went to go see the show, and I was like, yeah, this is super gay. I could see why people really, really think they should be together. I watched the movie and did not feel that way. I actually thought they had more of a friend vibe in the movie than in the play. So I find that interesting.
Which I enjoy, because you know what? Here's the thing. Everybody can hold space with whatever they want
All holding space.
I'm always holding space with the lyrics of Defying.
But I definitely, I did feel a lot more of that vibe, like the friend vibe. But we'll get into that in a second. We have two people joining us. Rachel and Abby are both in our chat. You guys can join us live on our Patreon. The fun part about the Patreon is that you guys can not only get episodes early, but you get access to special episodes. You can join us in the chat room. I think we're going to try to get really active maybe over the holidays and share some fun stuff that we're doing for the holidays. So join us on our Patreon, patreon.com/thelegendaryladies. Before we get into the movie, I kind of want to go around the table and talk about our personal experiences with the Wicked film, or with the Wicked like musical in general. So Kat and Morgan are lucky. They live on the East Coast. They have seen it on Broadway.
We have.
I've seen it at the Pantages Theater in Los Angeles. So, Kat, you said you saw it a year ago. Was that the first time you saw and or listened to it?
I mean, in the zeitgeist of living life, you listen to a few songs just because you live life. Like, I heard Popular before. I've heard Defying Gravity, either in other media. Actually, Morgan will get this. The show Sweet Vicious did a great job at utilizing Defying Gravity in the pilot, which I always still talk about. So what they did, and this is a show that got canceled. You could only probably, I don't even know if you'd be able to find it, but it was on MTV.
And I don't even know if it's streaming anywhere.
Don't even think it is, but I think you could buy it on like Amazon Prime last time I looked. But it's about these two girls who are like polar opposites, and it has to do with these rapists on a college campus that they try to do like Batman and Robin and defeat them. So the two girls end up killing somebody in the first episode, and they don't know each other really that well. And they have the dead body in their trunk, and they're like, well, what do we talk about? We don't know each other. And this is kind of an awkward situation. So they put on Defying Gravity, and they just start blasting it out. And I thought that was, they were like swerving, and the body's in the back, and they're just like singing Defying Gravity. It's very, very good. And I think they utilized the song well.
I still think about that sequence. Like, I still think about that.
What was really funny, I saw the pilot at New York Comic Con, and again, it was a pretty empty room. I remember being really excited for this pilot because it was just written all over that I would love it. And I interviewed the cast too. I had an interview for New York Comic Con. But anyway, so I watched the pilot, and there's the Q&A question, that section of the panel, and somebody came up and said, I just want to let you know I work for Wicked. And I love that scene.
Oh my God.
They're like, yeah, I work for like the Broadway show, and I really enjoyed that. So I was like, oh, that's cool. Really so but yeah, anyway, so I remember as a kid also, like, I like listening to Popular, like when I was like other kids were singing it. I'm like, where's that from? And not seeing Wicked at the time. But then a year later, the last year I got to see the show in full. I finally kind of understood all the plot. I think that's one thing about Broadway shows. Like, you can listen to the music all you want, and then you kind of create your own story because of it. Like Hamilton.
Except for Hamilton.
I was going to say Hamilton was probably the only one. Where you kind of listen to all of it and you're like, I kind of get what's going on.
Because it's literally, that's the whole plot of I think there's like one speaking scene in the whole show that isn't on like that soundtrack, essentially.
Yeah, there's not a lot of speaking, and Wicked does have a lot of like speaking roles in it. So, and again, you kind of miss like you were saying, like there's a lot of hit songs in Hamilton, so you just kind of hear it all. But Wicked, they have their very popular songs, and we'll talk about Act 2. But Act 2 doesn't have a lot of popular songs. So I didn't really know what happened in Act 2.
That's probably why my memories of Act 2 are so hazy compared to my memories of Act 1.
You guys, when it hit me. No, so here's the thing. Act 2 has no good deed for good.
No.
And oh my God, the one that Fiyero and Elphaba, spoiler alert, sing together, As Long As You're Mine. Oh, so when it hit me, and I was like, you guys, it's going to be Cynthia Erivo and Jonathan Bailey singing As Long As You're Mine together. I actually had like a visceral reaction to that realization. I was like, oh God, that's going to happen. And No Good Deed is my favorite song on the whole soundtrack. No Good Deed, I will literally wreck my voice singing at the top of my lungs in my car.
I don't remember this.
Oh my God.
I have to look it up now.
I only remember For Good, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
For Good is great. But No Good Deed, when you listen to it, it's the orchestration plus it's so good. Idina Menzel just knocks it out of the park, which we'll talk about. But yeah, so Kat, you've seen it on Broadway about a year ago. I find it actually really interesting and relevant that you saw it like as research for your
I was able to also write it off for taxes, so that was good. Yeah, because there's research for the comics, so also a business expense.
Incredible.
Oh, okay, Abby gets it. Abby in the comments says, yeah, the movie ended and I had a moment of realization I had to wait for a year for the version of No Good Deed. No Good Deed is going to destroy us. Rachel also agrees. No Good Deed is her favorite song on the soundtrack. You guys, when you listen to No Good Deed, I recommend listening in order. So listen to, if you want to, or if you want to be like me. And when I knew this movie came out, I intentionally did not listen to Wicked so that I could go in with that like nostalgia moment of feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, I wanted to like feel that in. But if you guys want to wait, great. But oh my God, I'm so glad I'm not alone. Thank you, Abby and Rachel, for justifying that No Good Deed is just top tier. If you think the riffs at the end of Defying Gravity were good, I cannot wait to see what Cynthia Erivo does with the riffs from No Good Deed. It is a belter's dream. It's so good. But Morgan, what's your experience with Wicked? And then I'll get into mine because clearly I have thoughts and passions.
Yeah, clearly. I went to go see it like early on when Mike and I were just dating. I think it was like 2018. It was like our first Broadway show that we went to together. And I remember really liking it. But again, this was like 2018. So my memories of like the actual plot of the show are way more hazy than I thought. Because when we went to the movie, like, last week, I was sitting in the theater. I was like, I don't remember as much of this as I thought I did. Like when the like Peter Dinklage's like the goat professor character comes out, I was like, oh, right. There's like a whole subplot about the animals I completely forgot. Like, yeah, like sometimes
it's interesting because when you're listening to the songs, you probably, that's not the main part that kind of comes through.
When I'm like skipping around my house singing Popular to the Cats and stuff, like that's not one of the ones I remember, like plot wise. So I remembered like really enjoying the show and having a really good time and liking the songs, but I didn't remember the plot actually as much. So some like watching the movie, actually I kind of did feel like, even though I've seen it, I did see it on Broadway, I didn't remember it as much as like some people who've seen it a couple of times, or some people who like listen to the soundtrack all the time. I was more like, I went to go see it. I had a good time. I hadn't thought about it much since then.
If you hadn't thought about it much since 2018, I haven't thought about it since I saw it in 2007.
Oh my God.
So here's my history with Wicked. So history was San Francisco tryout on 2003, off Broadway, went to Broadway 2003. I saw it at the Pantages Theater in Los Angeles in 2007. But in 2006, I was in my high school's all-girls show choir. And we did our big competition series. Shockingly, it was becoming super popular, was a couple of runs or songs from Wicked. So it was a 7-minute monologue from Wicked. We had choreography, we did dancing. My mom and I went shopping to get us all little witch hats and witch outfits so that we could dress up. Like, I have very fond memories of Wicked. I love the musical. I love listening to the songs, but I, just like you, Morgan, had no recollection of the animal stuff, had no recollection of the Grimmery. And interestingly,
yes, I didn't remember that either.
Yeah, that was one of the big things that that Steven Schwartz, when he was coming back in and he was composing new music for the film, that was one of the big things that they really wanted to make a big deal, was making sure that those underlying plots that get forgotten when you're just listening to the Broadway soundtrack become a big enough thing in the musical. So I don't know if you guys know this or you've since read it or you recognized it, but that sequence where Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth, which I lost it over. We will talk about that in a second.
Phil, I remember he gasped, and I'm like, they would have showed up, right? Like, you had to know they were gonna have cameos.
No,
I didn't know it was gonna be.
Honestly,
no.
I mean, it's so funny that you say that, Kat, because like I think if I thought about it, I would be like, yeah, no, they got to have a cameo. But I truly wasn't thinking about it, and so when they popped up, I was like,
that's so funny because that again, that was everyone's reaction. I'm like, but maybe I'm like so used to like Marvel movies and stuff like that, where I'm just not shocked to see anyone. But I'm just like, oh yeah, no, I guess like that's cool
it was
that
so
they're there.
Under wraps.
Yeah, I just expected it. So
like, that's so weird. I did not. And I didn't have anyone with me. So my theater experience, I went on a matinee and it was packed, but I went on my own because I have learned recently with films that I'm really hoping to be excited about or that I have seen before or films that I'm very passionate about, I don't like going with someone else because the whole time I'm thinking, are they enjoying it? Do they like it as much as I like it? I want to go and be immersed in it. So something like this, I went and saw for the first time on my own. I was not alone. There was another single solo, clearly theater girl right behind me because the girl in front of us started singing and she reached for it and she said, I'm here to watch them sing, not you. And I was like, yes, girl.
Like someone else said
we're
it, right?
the same. Oh, I was so happy. But
no one sang in our theater. I'll say that. It was like the day of, and the AMC made a big deal. Don't sing.
AMC did make a big deal of that when I saw it with my mom. I thought that was really interesting. But this girl and I both literally went, and I didn't have anyone next to me, so I just started slapping the chair next to me. But that whole sequence about the Grimmery, it was meant to be really important. So they apparently he wrote it overnight. The director was just like, yeah, it's okay. Go, this is what we want to do. They had a whole different idea of where they wanted to go with it. They couldn't figure out how they wanted to get this sequence in, how they wanted to get Idina and Kristen in it, but they knew they wanted it to be a big deal. And Steven was like, give me 24 hours. I think I have an idea. And he wrote that whole sequence overnight. But that idea of getting the Grimmery more involved was really, really important to me because I was like, oh, now I'm following this. And incidentally, it's something about it plays a role in the No Good Deed song that I never understood until I saw that in there. And I was like, oh, and it makes it worse.
I think that's why this movie's so successful, right? Because that's the big question of like, why is it doing so well to everybody? Like I have like kid cousins and they haven't even seen the movie yet. And they're just so like wicked, love Wicked. And so like, why is this doing so well? And I think there's a few reasons. What I personally liked about it as like a film person, I liked all the nods to Wizard of Oz in particular, like the filming of Wizard of Oz, like why that's such a successful movie. So that's why I like
what?
It. But then like the coloring that they utilize, like there's different I wish I didn't watch this a month ago because then I could actually give you a specific reason, but now I don't remember. But I do remember there's like coloring aspects. And then I think in the end, they also had like the letters, the end or part 2. I don't remember what it was, but they did like different nods to the actual movie, the look of that movie. Another thing is that I think a lot of times what I hate about adaptations is that they're the same exact thing or they're too different, where it's like, oh, you changed all of it, you don't even get the core of it, or it's just really a beat to beat. I already saw the original, I don't want to see this. I think this did a really good job at being like, oh, no, let's just expand upon the show. Like let's not take away from that original thing, but also let's not do beat by beat. And you could correct me if I'm wrong, Amy, but I thought a lot of the arrangements were different for the music too. So if you listen to the Broadway show and you listen to the music here, I thought they tried some different things with some of the songs.
Yes and no. A lot of the changes that they made were by adding things in and adding space where there's not usually space. So for instance, I'm going to spoil something now. On my top 5, Defying Gravity is not on there.
Ooh, okay.
Which should shock everyone.
Fighting words.
Because here it is. And remember, I'm not talking about the soundtrack. I'm talking about the actual scene itself. Soundtrack wise, it makes the top 5. Cynthia Erivo's performance, fucking through the roof. But
Ooh. Oh no, not the cliffhanger.
But what?
But what?
But
As
what?
Amy talks, I actually really like Defying Gravity because I think what Amy's gonna say, we'll see, is the space. Okay, what you're gonna say, the space, I'm guessing?
We lost it. Can I start that over?
And then you said but, so you could go right into it because you feel to the place where you can literally go right.
And we were like, but what?
Yeah, you should be okay. So, but you literally are but, so go for it. Yeah.
Okay. But the biggest frustration that I had with Defying Gravity in the moment was that it kept losing its momentum. When I'm listening to the Defying Gravity soundtrack on Broadway, I love how it just keeps going and going and going and building and building and building. And the number of times that I'm waiting for it to build and it stopped. And it actually took me out. And that is my biggest frustration with this movie, because I'm talking about other sequences where I love what they added in. I love the space that they put in One Short Day. I love the extra stuff that they put in No One Mourns the Wicked. I don't feel like they did that justice in Defying Gravity because it loses its momentum. They did it just too much. And so that really frustrated me, and that's why it doesn't make my top 5. It takes me out.
That's understandable. I don't remember, but I feel like maybe I'm making up this memory that they do a similar thing in the show. Like the soundtrack obviously is all, I know they take a couple of pauses. I don't remember if it's as lengthy of pauses, but I do remember them breaking in, being like a part of the show that wasn't part of the song. That I do remember, but I don't remember how long it was. Someone who's seen the show somehow more recently than me maybe can tell me or has a better memory.
I definitely know that the She's Not Here Looking For It's Me, that's in there, because that's actually where she rises up in the stage film. And I gotta say, the ending made me just kind of like, it literally took my heart and it grew 10 times. Where they had her cloak getting bigger and bigger, because that's what happens in the stage production. Whereas she rises up, the black cloak behind her still connects to the bottom of the stage. And I was like, I am so overwhelmed by this nod to the musical right now. But the moment where she's falling and she sees her younger self, which is a beautiful moment, and the part where she's flying up into the sky singing the Unlimited, 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 like 3 times in a row, those are added on. And those were the 2 that I was like, okay, earlier I was okay with it. But the moment where they like put on her hat and her cape, and they've got this gorgeous drum beat in the background that's got that like almost like Irish sort of a boom, and it's building and it's building and it's building, and then it stops. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And so it kept doing that, going and stopping and going and stopping. So it was the one time where they just, as Abby said, what a time to dramatically pause. They had too many dramatic pauses. It was my only qualm with the musical.
I see where you're coming from now.
Defying Gravity.
Yeah.
I thought you meant when they were breaking in, because I'm like, I remember when they broke into the play and they stopped. Okay.
Because it starts when they're arguing. That whole sequence is all Defying Gravity. I'm talking about like just the ways it just kind of up, and then eventually it actually went and then went back up. So the last bit is great, but there's a lot of people who make fun of it. Not make fun of it. That's a terrible thing to say. No one makes fun of Wicked. Don't make fun of Wicked. On Instagram, where like musical nerds like us, like we're like singing along, and then they add stuff, and we're like, oh, that doesn't come in right now. Okay, we're still driving, we're still listening, and we're ready to sing, and it still doesn't come in right now. Okay. So that was the only thing where the change just didn't do it for me.
I just thought also the movie's long. That's just look. I know no one cared. I already got crucified by everybody else, because we walked out of the theater. We had a pretty big group go with us. Like I had a lot of Phil's family. My mom came. We went, and everyone's like, "That's a 5-star movie. That's the best thing I've seen next to sliced bread." I'm like, I liked it a lot. And it's like, it's not your number 1. I'm like, yeah, it's like my number 5 or 6 this year. And you're like, what? I know. Just hold on. It's 4 stars. I like it, but I don't love a long ass movie. And I do think
that's fair.
I can understand expanding the story and that being a good thing. I even said that. I think I respect that it was long in that regard. But as a moviegoer, I like a good, I would say this, but I'm a huge fantastical person, and I obviously still really appreciate this from a Wizard of Oz standpoint and even the fantastical standpoint. But the movies that were ahead for me were the more somber movies. Like I enjoy a good like two people stuff. Honestly, Am I Okay is my number one right now because that's the type of movie I personally love a lot because it's the type of movie where it's like, oh, here's a character journey. Someone's stuck in a room with their friend and they kind of have to have this conversation. Another movie, which I'm getting my friends, they were going to watch it today, but we're going to watch it tomorrow, was Robot Dreams, where it's this silent hour-and-a-half movie about this robot, not robot, it's about this dog who's lonely and he builds a robot. And along the way, you get to see their relationship. Things happen to their relationship, but it's actually all silent. And it's all driven by score. And they tell this really cool personal story with robots and dogs to talk about like New York City and how it feels to be a New Yorker or how it feels to be a human being. And you're like, whoa, that really touched me because that's like from more of an emotional core. And you did it all in 90 minutes. I love a good tight movie. So that's just a personal preference. But I do love this movie. And I think this is what I stated earlier, it's the best Broadway adaptation because it doesn't change the songs too much, but it does everything it has to, but it expands upon it. Obviously uses the movie foundation better because you can make it more upscale and it's not just a stage. So they did everything right. It's just like it's definitely more of like a personal preference. Like I really like this movie. It's in my top 10. I saw like 40 movies this year. So like that still means it's in my top 10. But it's so funny if you do not give this movie 5 stars, how people want to be like, how?
But knowing you, that doesn't surprise me. Morgan, was the
I haven't given a 5-star movie at all this year. There is no 5-star movie yet.
Oh my God. My letterbox and your letterbox are so different.
I thought you watched the Batman, you're like 5 stars.
5 stars. 5 stars. If I enjoy a movie, I'm just like 5 stars. There you go. I give you like
did the Batman come out this year?
No, I just saw it on Morgan's letterbox.
Oh, I was like, did
we watched it for Supergirl Radio. So we talked about the Batman. I think we're gonna also then like go into like the Joker and then terrifyingly Folie à Deux. So
I'm so sorry. I hope you don't give that 5 stars.
Is
sure the trap 5 stars?
Who knows? Maybe.
I'll let you know.
That man was trapped. Cat.
Give me a minute. I actually think I'm almost certain you gave it 5 stars. So I remember before I watched it, oh no. I'm pretty sure she did. Let's see.
2.5, 3-star movie.
You gave it 4. Okay, I'm so sorry. You gave it 4 stars.
I enjoyed my time with Josh Hartnett in that concert. You cannot shame me.
I'll never shame your 5-star ratings.
Unsurprisingly, Wicked was a 5 stars from me. I'm very generous with my stars, and I had a great time. I was like initially going into that movie being like, I can't believe it's going to be so long. But I really didn't feel the length. I feel like when I watch it later at home, I'm going to. But when I was in the theater, I was like, okay, this doesn't feel that long. There were a couple points, especially towards the end, where I was like, I might have to go to the bathroom. Are we wrapping up now? Are we close to wrapping up? If I missed
did go to the bathroom. I did go to the bathroom, but I nudged Phil and I said, "Is this an important scene?" And he said, "You're good," because he remembers he remembers the musical a lot. So,
did you go during Sentimental Man? Because that one I've seen the musical twice now, and I'm seeing it
I had to pee before that.
Sentimental Man is my least favorite song on the album, and I will walk out every single time.
Yeah, that wasn't my favorite. The Wizard obviously the plot wise, the Wizard is interesting, but his songs are not the most interesting thing. The only reason it's interesting is because it's a villain you could fight, right? Like it's like, oh, that's cool. It's someone I know from the Wizard of Oz, and you could like physically fight him. And that is what I'm curious about the next movie. There's actually a lot of action, so like the play, that's why it's so short. But there's like, I think they're going to expand a lot in that regard, where you're going to see a lot of those action pieces that you obviously couldn't see on stage.
I'll be interested to see what they do for part 2, because wasn't part 2, and I don't remember this because it was so long ago, but I saw somewhere online that people were being like, part 2 was substantially shorter in
It's
the
like
stage show than part 1.
Yeah, it's like 40 something minutes, supposedly.
So yeah, I'll be interested to see how they expand that out because they're not going to have quite as much material as they had with this one for part 2.
Well, especially this movie was so popular. So some people are even saying it'll go past part 2 because there's books. They're based on books. So like people are like, oh, there might be even more after this. Like they'll just pass the play.
I think. Oh,
I don't know what happens after, but
there's the one of them's called Son of a Witch. So I'm sure there's that.
Have you read all the Wicked books?
So this is funny. Wicked is not Wizard of Oz. So Wicked is not public domain, but Wizard of Oz is. So those books are using the public domain of Wizard of Oz to tell their story. So they're able to do it because it's public domain. Wizard of Oz has 14 books, and that's something we've been learning because we actually have been having to read those and like do research.
Oh my god!
Oz. There's characters like Ozma and all these like Gayletta. There's all these characters that don't even show up in the movies. I mean, in the movie and all these other adaptations.
I didn't know there were so many books to that.
But Ozma is a character that shows up for 13 books. It just doesn't show up for the first one.
Or it's a character who, if you guys watched Emerald City, you would totally. It's a big plot point in Emerald City. I still think you guys need to watch Emerald City. Maybe we should do that as a pilot pod now that there's like Wizard Mania or Wicked Mania going on.
You could force us to do that. That's fine.
I like it.
I didn't feel the length of this movie at all. I think part of it is that when you know the order of the songs, you know where you are in the film, and where you know where you are, it doesn't feel like it's dragging. You're like, nope, I still know we've still got 6 songs left, or oh, nope, we're getting close to Defying Gravity. You're like, all right, we're ready to ramp it up. But Kat, I'm gonna one up you. You said it was the best adaptation of any musical into.
I'm ready to hear which one's better.
A movie. I think it might be my favorite adaptation of anything that I
thought you were gonna be like, I have a better Broadway show. Get ready. It's Rock of Ages.
No, I actually like I recognize
crazy.
Yeah, the Chicago, so good. But you know, I was thinking about all the like IPs that are out there and like all the Marvel movies and all that stuff. But I would argue that this is Harry Potter, you know, besides Lord of the Rings. That's my only competition. Lord of the Rings and Wicked, I think, are the 2 best adaptations from stage to screen or from book to screen that exist, because I think that both of them do the proper work to honor the spirit of what they're doing and add to make it a more enjoyable experience than if you were just reading or just watching it on the stage. But I was so impressed with how much they expanded.
I think the MCU definitely doesn't deserve any of is a good adaptations because they're very much not. But for me personally, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is a very good comic adaptation because you could feel reading a comic to that. The other adaptation that's not good, but I have like just a really good a soft spot too, because it's not a good it's really not a good adaptation, but I love it because there's such a common conversation as Watchmen. So Watchmen the movie is not a good adaptation, but I think it changes it so much that it's a conversation of like, oh, this is interesting. They actually, so spoiler alert, the end of Watchmen is trying to become a utopia. So one of the Watchmen people, he ends up destroying the world to kind of create a utopia. And in the end, that plan doesn't work out, but there's a big squid that destroys the world. And you're like, oh my God, we were worrying about Russia and all these other people that are going to destroy us. And it ends up just being Mother Nature that destroys us. It ends up being a squid. But the movie, they end up making a Dr. Manhattan that destroys everybody, which means America destroyed itself. So I'm like, oh, that's an interesting new way to look at the story. So I'm like, oh, it's a bad adaptation because it changes literally the whole theme of the movie. But I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting that you change one thing and you change the whole context of what a movie in a story could be. So I'm like, yeah, it's not a good adaptation, but it makes you think, which is also an interesting adaptation.
Yeah, I usually prefer the adaptations that bring something new to the story versus, as Rachel says in the chat, see all live action Disney remakes, which
Mufasa's coming out.
Yeah. Mufasa, I've got that on the calendar. But like for the most part, the Disney adaptations don't really bring anything new to the story. They're just like, okay, it's the story you've seen before, but now there's actors in it. Isn't that exciting? It's like, not really. I don't know. The weird CGI of like the weird looking fish is kind of off-putting in Ariel, in The Little Mermaid. So yeah, I like that when an adaptation is like, we're going to give you something different. It's not just going to be the exact same thing you've seen before, but like slightly adjusted.
Which is why I liked like Maleficent. Maleficent was like, oh, let's do something at least a little different and do something with the villain. I was like, okay, I don't really like any of the live action, like Beauty and the Beast, what they changed there. But everyone saw it.
Very little. I liked Dumbo, but then again, they were working off of like a very old Disney movie
that not everyone sees.
It was probably like 60 minutes maximum too. This is like from like the 50s or whatever. So I feel like they had a lot more room to like, we need it to be movie length. We got to pad stuff out. But yeah, for the most part, like a lot of these Disney remakes are like shot for shot almost sometimes. And I think that The Wicked did a good job of bringing new things to the stage show and like presenting things in a different way while still being like recognizably Wicked.
And there's actually an irony because when we watched the movie, there was a trailer for How to Train Your Dragon, which also is just a live action.
Don't get me started.
I was like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this?
And which was just a shot by shot, like literally, they show like a scene that's like from the movie, and it was like, but why do we need this?
I'm actually mad. I am actually mad because that is one of my all-time favorite movies ever. How dare you? I am mad. What I'm not mad about, transition, is the set and world building in Wicked. Because I don't know if you guys, I have, so I remember vaguely the set on the Pantages, but because Wicked has become, everywhere on social media, I've been seeing a lot of clips of the Broadway musicals and stuff, and it's pretty minimalistic. The sets are incredibly minimalistic. And so the fact that they created, and Ariana Grande posted a video recently of her actually walking through the set, the way they created Emerald City, the way they created Shiz, her room, the way that they did that sequence, which we'll talk about in a little bit for What Is This Feeling, the way the river walk, the Ozdust ballroom with the little fish as the dancing like disco-like colors, all of that was just absolutely spectacular. Like you could see that the people who made this loved every second of what they did. It was so stunning.
And like the musical, because like, again, this is bad comparison, but like a show, like a movie Craven that's coming out, right? Like I'm guessing that person from what I'm seeing
did you
is
see
not
it got
the
like
biggest
9%?
Yes, it's at 16 now. But don't worry, it went up. But yeah, like you kind of tell, like, is this the biggest Spider-Man fan? Craven's like a Spider-Man movie coming out. Again, what is this? Because no one knows. Because no one needs to know what the movie is. But the point being is, did they come with love with that? Did they come with love for Madam Web? No. They're just like, let's just make this movie. But with Wicked, yeah, you could tell that
Madam Web is going to be your number one movie of the year. I can just sense it. I can feel it.
It's my top 10. Don't worry. It's below Wicked. Don't worry. But
okay,
should it be?
What? Wait, what's
Madam
below
Web?
Wicked?
No, Madam Web. I don't know if you saw that movie, but
I got distracted here, and you want to know why I got distracted? Can we nerd out for a hot second here? Can we fangirl for a hot second? I'm really not kidding. The actual Broadway actress who plays Elphaba just replied to one of my comments on Instagram. Oh. And so I got distracted being like, huh. Now, what is it about? It's about plantar fasciitis house slippers.
Of course. Very cool.
The irony of that happening as we're talking about Wicked is hilarious.
No, that was very ironic. That's crazy.
That's amazing.
Okay, let's see. I'm looking at my notes of things that I wanted to chat about, besides the fact that, like, can Jonathan Bailey just you know what it is? Henry
Jonathan
Cavill
Bailey's a perfect angel.
Henry Cavill is everyone's.
Until now, but I'm happy. I know. Well,
that's because you don't Bridgerton or Fellow
I
Travelers.
don't Bridgerton.
He was in Fellow Travelers, Kat.
Didn't watch.
She wasn't on that one, I don't think.
No,
it was a historical show. Kat dipped out.
Wasn't there.
Okay,
there for that
one. Morgan, you'll get this. Maybe Kat will. In books when there's like when they talk about the male presenting male female or the male presenting main characters. God, that was a tongue twister. As like grumpy or sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
Henry Cavill is the entire world's grumpy shadow daddy, that they would all like his characters have that kind of a vibe, even though he's just like this big nerd. And Jonathan Bailey is just the sunshine main character. And like the two of them together, every single person I talk to is like, no, we don't care what way we swing. We don't care what way they swing. We would cut off our right arm to be with either Henry Cavill or Jonathan Bailey. And the answer to that is yes. I would cut off, I would break a femur, which I have done before to do that.
Don't do it again, Amy.
You know the pain.
Jonathan Bailey.
I mean, look. But
I just think he's got so much swag. He's got so much confidence. He's got so much chemistry with everyone and everything.
Mm-hmm.
In that one sequence where he's doing like the Dancing Through Life song, like everybody in that whole set looked like they were in love with him, men and women. Everybody, like
people are like, is he bisexual? And I was like, yeah, maybe after that scene. I don't know.
Maybe
not the actor, the character.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. No, there was actually a number of conversations about how that I've seen a couple chats about that online, about how they respected that Jonathan Bailey made choices that just gave that little bit of edge in there, and no one's fighting it. Everyone's like, you know what? We like this for him.
I think it helps the guy from SNL was a character they added. So
Owen Yang,
yeah. So I think that helped too, because like it's like, oh, there's queer characters or exist in this world. So in the original play, there's not. But again, it's very interesting to see that Elphaba and Glinda again have this queer codingness to that play, and then and maybe it's Ariana Grande, maybe it's just the way they play it, but I just I didn't feel it at all. I just felt like love their friendship, but I did not feel any queer anything. But then you have him and you're just like, he can end up with anybody.
I think too, I remember seeing an interview where they were talking about how casting Jonathan Bailey was really challenging, because they were basically looking for an actor who could have that main character energy. And I was thinking about this both in Ariana Grande's performance, which I can't even believe we haven't even talked about the performances yet. When I was thinking about Ariana Grande and Jonathan Bailey's performance, I was thinking about a lot of the actual script itself. And if played by other actors, some of the things that they said could have come off mean, could have come off catty, could have come off rude. But the way that they performed them endeared you to the characters. You didn't leave thinking Galinda was at any point really a bitch. You're like, no, this is just the way she's raised. This is just her. She gets better. She grows. And oh my gosh, the way that Ariana Grande portrayed her emotions in that opening sequence and what she was seeing with the fact that her best friend is now dead. Well, that was so good. But there was one moment where, I don't remember what Fiyero says, but Fiero's talking to Bach, and remember Bach steps on the chair, the books to make himself look a little bit taller, because he's like, I'm from Munchkinland, and he steps on the books. The way that Jonathan Bailey looks down at the books and then back up at him could easily have been played with this guy stepping on books to make him look tall, but instead he was like, nice move, I appreciate that, I applaud you for your ingenuity. And the way that he does that throughout the film, I, as the audience, was like captivated by this man's charisma. But I was just so impressed with both of the way that those two actors made their characters not at any point feel villainous or rude or catty or mean, when they could very easily have. And that especially in a movie. On a Broadway stage, like when you're stage acting and you're so far away from the audience, that's something that they have really thought carefully about, is how do I deliver this line so that even if they can't see my face up close, they still get the intention of my line. You think about that a lot on stage. And it's very different when you're on a Broadway stage versus a black box stage and the audience is right next to you. But on film, when you've got those minute little looks that you can do, the look down, the look up, the way that he crosses his eyes or looks around a corner, like that's so important. And so I was just really, like, as an actress, really nerdy proud to see how much work they put in to making these characters endearing and likable, as opposed to what could very easily have been the opposite.
Well, Ariana Grande, when she is Cat, I don't like her music usually that much. Honestly, it's just not my thing. She's a very high singer, but she did a really good job at, I don't want to say changing her voice, but not doing the style she usually does with her pop music here. And it's so funny. I saw an interview too where she reacts is like, yeah, if I was cast and I found out that news, I'd also feel like that was a bad choice. And I think she proved herself really well, and she just played the role well. And she's obviously a Broadway theater geek, and it works.
Her vocal coach.
Yeah, I was really impressed with her.
Yeah. Sorry, Morgan.
Sorry,
my Wi-Fi and your Wi-Fi both got delayed at the same time, and so then we both paused and we both started talking over each other.
And I saw it happening.
Just saw it happening. I remember seeing an interview with her vocal coach, and one of the things that her vocal coach is, as soon as she knew she wanted to audition, they started working on very specific things. But down the line, he said that Ariana said that it was a really big deal to her that she practiced that more classical training. And he's like, yes, she can hit the high notes, but she wanted to be able to hit them like a Broadway soprano, like a true vibrato soprano. And you can see it. I'm still blown away every time I see clips of them singing live. And you know when they're singing live, when you listen to it like on the soundtrack, which is the only other big thing, is sometimes like in Defying Gravity, when they were talking and then going to singing, you could tell the sound mixing was a little off. But I'm willing to forgive that because they recorded it live. That blows me away. Like, as a performer and as someone who has sung some of these songs before, and I have done some of these, like the big ones, the big belter songs as solos, I cannot imagine the fortitude. Even now, like in my room, before I was trying to perform, or before we were doing this, I'm dancing along to Dancing Through Life. And there's a moment where Ariana and Jonathan Bailey are dancing side by side. That you're perfect, no, we're perfect together, born to be forever, dancing through life. And both of them blast their chests out and pull back their arms. And I was like, oh my God, the note that she's hitting and the like literally the like abdominal strength I need to pull my arms back the way she's doing that and hold that note. I'm like, this is actually really challenging. So I'm just so impressed with how much they did. I'm blown away every time I see it.
Yeah, the cast was like uniformly excellent. I thought everybody was really good. I didn't ever see Ariana in anything like acting wise. I know that she came up
through Victorious.
I never watched Victorious. I didn't see her come up through. Was it Nickelodeon or was it like Disney Channel or whatever it was?
I think she did.
It was Nickelodeon.
She was on Schneider.
Nickelodeon. Yeah. So I never saw any of that stuff. So when they cast her, I was like, oh, really? Ariana Grande? But she's got such excellent comedic timing that I was like, I expected her to be able to sing because I think her music is good. I can tell she's got a good voice, but I didn't expect how good she was at being very funny. And she was really, really funny in this.
Well, and I would think because she did grow up on a sitcom because of as a kid, right? Like I'm not saying it was the best circumstance with the Dan Snyder thing, but yeah, she grew up as a comedian. Which is interesting. I think plays a part here. Okay. I think we'll go. Is there another topic? Should we go to the top 5?
No, I was going to go to the top 5 because what's funny is I'm literally reordering it now as we speak. So
Defying Gravity is number 1.
Let's start from our 5 down, and we're going to keep this to maybe about 10 minutes. So we've talked a lot about, but why you like it, what's fun about the sequence for you. So Morgan, why don't you go first? What is your number 5 on the list?
Okay, I think my number 5, and again, I want everyone to know that we decided to do this 5 minutes before recording.
Yeah.
So don't get mad at me. My number 5 is One Short Day. So that's when Galinda and Elphaba, they go to Oz and they're having their little city day, and then Adina and Kristen Chenoweth show up and you're like, oh my God. I thought that whole sequence was really fun. I liked the surprise guests that I wasn't expecting, although to Kat's point, I should have been. I thought that I thought that the whole sequence was really fun. And honestly, I didn't remember that song at all from the show. So I was like, ooh, this is fun.
I didn't remember it either. But yeah, that's a fun one. I will say the fun ones are not on my list as much because I like a good sad song.
Oh, okay. Kat, what's your number 5?
Kat is a sad girl.
Well, get ready. Let's talk about the saddest of them all. Not really, but I'm Not That Girl is a pretty sad song. And I do like a good sad girl song. And yeah, this is one I didn't really remember from the play. And I'm sure, it had a big moment, but again, you kind of think of the bigger ones like Popular and Defying Gravity. So this one kind of snuck up on me. And I think that the emotional beats were hit really well on this. And if I remember correctly, she's like walking through stuff, and as like the song builds, she's like running, and I thought that was fun.
Oh, gosh, I keep going back and forth. So you know what? I'm just gonna put it out there, and then know that this is not a binding top 5 contract for Amy.
You're locked down into it, Amy.
She's so locked down that her internet.
Oh no, I killed Amy.
You did. Like, you have to make a decision.
I told her she was locked down. She immediately threw her internet out.
She's like, I can't do this.
What did you hear?
Nothing. I didn't hear your choice at all.
You were like, I don't want to be locked down, and I joked like, oh no, you're locked down, and all of a sudden the Wi-Fi. I was like, it was too much pressure.
It was too much pressure. So this is, and I really, truly, guys, I have been listening to the soundtrack almost every single day. I am dancing while I'm cleaning up after Okapi. I am dancing with rakes. I'm dancing with shovels, wheelbarrows, hay. I am like, there is 100% footage of me practicing choreography on our cameras at my job. So a lot of this changes based on my mood. So I'm going with what my mood is right now. This was a little higher on my list earlier, but I've changed it. No, you know what? I'm going to go with my original. So my number 5 is Popular. And here's the thing about Popular. I think Ariana Grande's performance was out of this world. I think it was spectacular. I think it was really beautifully done. Did they have brains or knowledge? Don't make me laugh. They were popular, right? And she slams the book down. It gets me every single time. I love that bit. I love all of her, like, her gadgets that come up and all her beautiful things and the way she does. Like, it was so beautiful. I loved the whole sequence of Popular. And I love that that was, in my opinion, just very true and honest to the actual musical. So I loved that.
I didn't see the
love letter to Kristen Chenoweth.
When I didn't see the play, I always thought the lyrics was, I'm popular. Don't you think I'm popular? And I was like, wow. I thought she was, the whole time I always thought it was a song where she bragged really to Elphaba that she's popular. And then like when I actually saw the show, I'm like, oh, so she's not bragging. She's actually like trying to help her out. So that was mind blowing when I first heard the song with the play.
Okay, Morgan, what's your number 4?
Okay, my number 4, if I remember right,
yes. Okay, sorry. Can I interrupt you real fast? Because Abby this was one of the rings that I can't believe I didn't bring it up. Abby says when Ariana is moving across the floor doing the la 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 during fun. Popular Made Me Die. I thought it was so funny. I actually laughed so hard I got tears in my eyes, Abby. I loved that bit, and I don't know why I didn't bring it up. The ending sequence is different. That's added on. Where she's dancing in the hallway and it keeps raising keys 3 times in a row. And Steven Schwartz the composer and writer of Wicked, said he actually likes that part that he added on so much that he wants that to become eventually part of the Broadway musical. And the reason that they added that in there was because they built the set for the hallways and hadn't shot anything in it. And they loved the hallways so much that they wanted to find a way to use it. And so apparently it was a last-minute decision that they actually decided to film that. But anyway,
that's so cool.
Sorry.
A lot of last-minute decisions.
Yeah, it does seem like there's a lot of last-minute decisions in this incredibly expensive movie. They must have been so stressed the whole time. Yeah, my number 4 was Dancing Through Life. We talked about it a lot, but like Jonathan Bailey is just so charming. I just love him so much. And the whole song is basically Jonathan Bailey being like, I'm charming. I'll charm you and I'll charm you. I have no thoughts in this beautiful head. No thoughts at all. And I like the way that he like, what is it? There's like a sort of a rotating book system in the library.
Yeah, that's cool.
Around it. I thought the staging was so cool. The way that they like really got
3 days to film it.
Physicality. Really? I mean, I could see that though. It was a lot of of coordination, a lot of like the background performers in that sequence as well are really good, you know, running up and running down and like swinging off of things. And I thought that was all really well done. And from like a story perspective, I think it really sets his character up at the beginning of his journey really well. Like we kind of know exactly who this guy is. He's a charmer. He doesn't want to do anything serious. He just wants to kind of skate on by. And I think that like if you have Jonathan Bailey, who is you know, an actor who is that charming, like it just really works.
What about you, Kat?
All right, my number 4 is Popular. We already talked about it. I am popular. I am popular. Great song.
My number 4 is One Short Day. So Morgan, you and I flopped there.
Nice.
I have always loved One Short Day, specifically the opening. I really love the choral work at the opening, which, by the way, I'm sorry, I know I'm throwing out so many trivia nerd things, but I have just been obsessed. They actually got members from the original cast to sing all of the choral bits or any of the group numbers are recorded using members from the original Broadway production or members who have performed this production on Broadway before, which was really cool. But One Short Day has always been one of my favorites. I was obsessed with the actual Emerald City. I loved the Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth bit in the middle. I thought the comedic timing was beautiful. I thought the world building for what realistically was only about 4.5 to 5 minutes in the beginning, like the sequence itself was like 10 minutes with Idina and Kristen, but otherwise it's a very short sequence with stunning world building, beautiful set building. I just absolutely love it. But One Short Day, especially the opening. Yeah, those of you who are watching on our YouTube, Lenny, Kat's dog, is just going hilariously ballistic, and it's been so much fun. Yeah, she's
such a fluff ball.
She's a little pterodactyl. I love her.
If you've been seeing me pulled, like doing these motions, it's because she's been pulling me. So
yeah, Abby in the chat says the additional "if you only had" at the beginning of One Short Day was so short but left such an impression on me. 100%, Abby. I have been listening to One Short Day is one of my repeat songs, and I have been a lot of times I'll just start it over just so I can listen to the first minute of it. But without fail, that song will 100% make me smile. Doesn't matter what's going on. You can start playing that song that makes me smile. And I just was so impressed with how well and how good of justice they did. All right, Morgan, number 3.
Oh, my number 3. Let me find it because I can't remember. I know what I thought the name of the song was, and it wasn't, which is why I had to find it. It's What Is This Feeling? It's
Not
basically
Loathing?
I thought it was called Loathing. It's basically when Galinda and Elphaba are first rooming together and they discover they really do not like each other, and we kind of get their sort of contentious relationship at the beginning of the movie. And I think that the song is really catchy, and I like the way that it plays off both actresses, and I just thought that the whole sequence was really funny too. the way that they kind of set everything up is like, you know, this person's doing this thing and this person doing that thing, and it's driving them each other insane. Especially the part in the middle where they're like, Galinda, oh my God, you're so brave to be rooming with her. Nightmare person in this scenario. So I thought that was a really fun one.
This is the one that gets stuck in my head a lot. If I feel like I have something in my head, it's usually that one. Mm-hmm. And I do think this is a big difference between the play and the movie. This song in particular, I was like, gay, 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 gay in the play. Like, did you feel that, oh, what is this feeling? You know, and I don't feel that in the movie. Like in this one, I didn't feel that at all. So it's interesting how, because I mean, the words, it sounds like, it's like, what is this feeling? Like, I'm starting to have feelings for you. And I just don't feel that in this version, but that doesn't mean I dislike this version. I think they play off something else. I think they honestly really do play off the antagonistic relationship a bit more in this version.
Kat, what's your number 3?
Mine is The Wizard and I. Another one. I mean, the start went, yeah.
Well, that
really
doesn't surprise me for you.
Yeah, slow. Oh, such a good slow song.
Oh, and the ending sequence where she's running through the field and belting. I had one of those moments where you're like, this is why I love musicals. This is why I love theater. This is why I do what I do. Like, this is it right here. The sensation in my chest. This is it.
It's also very old school movies. I forget the one with Julia Roberts, the famous one. The movie where she sings 16, I am 16, going on 17.
Julia Roberts.
The Sound of Music?
The Sound of Music. Julia Roberts is not in that. Julia Roberts is not in The Sound of Music.
Julia Roberts, the other one, the one from Princess Diaries.
Anne Hathaway is also not in this.
Oh, the grandma from the Princess Diaries.
Julie Andrews. Okay, I can
Julie Andrews, the grandma from, not Julia Roberts, the grandma from Princess Diaries is in that movie.
Julia, we're all sitting there like, what are you talking about? You're like, Julia, the one with the 16,
Andrews.
17. Oh my God.
Sound of Music.
The Sound of Music.
I think that's similar to the running in the field. I had it. I just had the names wrong. But yes, I like this one. But the beginning with Michelle, say I don't have to go back to word names. I don't Yao from Everything Everywhere at Once. She can't sing very well, so that's the only downside. Is she's the only one who can't sing in this movie. And she tries, but the rest of the song is really great.
Rachel in the chat said Cynthia made me love The Wizard and I. That's tied for my favorite. So you're within good company there.
Rachel, I agree with you. Wizard and I has never been one of my favorites. But I really, this performance of it won me over, even though it's not on my list, shockingly. Weirdly enough, I'll get to it. My number 3 is the opening sequence, No One Mourns the Wicked. I am obsessed with it because I've always loved the opening orchestration. The orchestration of No One Mourns the Wicked is one of my all-time favorite musical orchestrations ever. It is top tier orchestration for me. The overture is just stellar. Will get me every single time. Like the second it started playing in the theater, I actually felt like, you know, in books when they say like lightning goes through your veins, like I felt that. I actually felt a visceral reaction to hearing that music for like as it opens up again. But for me, it is Ariana Grande's performance in this where they up the reaction and the way that you can see the fact that she is devastated, that she has to put on this face when she's celebrating the death of someone who means so much to her. And there's one sequence where they actually raised her volume a little higher when she's singing the whole chorus is singing one section, the wicked die alone, and she sings She Died Alone. And the way that the camera moves in to see her devastation, that plus when they bring out that massive pyre of the witch and the music changes and the sound effect at the right timing of the fire going up that, oh my gosh, I could talk about that opening sequence and the sound editing and the choreography and the orchestration of that one song for 2 hours. I was just genuinely
and we have the 2 hours
so
right
impressed.
now.
We do not. We're moving on to our number 2. Anyway, I was listening to that was my repeat song all day today, and that's like my angsty song on this list. The rest are really fun and peppy. That's my angsty song on the list. So, Morgan, what is your number 2?
My number 2 has already been mentioned. It's popular. I love that song. It's the one that gets stuck in my head the most often. And so when I'm like, kind of like, as I'm going around the house, I think Ariana is so funny in that sequence when she's like throwing things around and like things are popping up. And I just thought that the whole sequence, which is like kind of when they start to become friends, does such a good job at like setting up that relationship really quickly. And you know, you guys have kind of talked about it, but yeah, I think that that's such a good one.
Kat, what's your number 2?
Mine is What Is Feeling, because again, it gets stuck in my head, so I like it. it could be a little sad, I guess.
You're allowed to be like, it's an earworm. I love it.
It's so good.
My second is Dancing Through Life. I have loved Dancing Through Life. It's been one of my top 3 songs on the album for as long as I can remember. I've always loved it. Always makes me feel good. Always makes me happy. It's an interesting message if you look at the messaging of the song, but I actually kind of enjoy. I take a lot from it. It's not dancing through life like just skimming the surface. For me, it's dancing through life and finding joy. Like that's what the song is about for me. And for me personally, that hits really heavy. That kind of reminder. Find joy, find these moments. Don't let yourself get dragged down by being a workaholic, by school, by finances, whatever. It's such an important reminder to just find the joy whenever you can. But this sequence is so beautifully done. The choreography's through the roof, the circle like library thing, the way they added the Nessa stuff, the box stuff, that duet that Ariana and Cynthia, that Elphaba and Galinda dance, the little freaky dance thing that they do, which you're like, this is so awkward in the middle of the Ozdust ballroom. That's part of this song. That I was bawling. I was losing it.
You cried a lot during this movie.
Look, the theater girl behind me, whose name I don't know, she's somewhere here in Escondido. So if you happen to see it on the Monday after it came out at 3 p.m. and you live in San Diego, please find me, because clearly
you were also crying hysterically during
we were the 2 theater girls who went and saw it on our own because we wanted to be in the moment. So we need to be friends.
That's so good.
But she was sniffing in that moment. I literally was like, I don't have tissues. Why did I bring tissues? What kind of person doesn't bring tissues to see a musical like this? But anyway, yes,
I did not bring tissues, but honestly, I should have.
But yeah, that's Dancing Through Life. Is Jonathan Bailey's like my spirit animal, and so Dancing Through Life is kind of my spirit song. So love that. And all right, Morgan, what is your number 1 favorite song?
I'm a cliche. It's Defying Gravity. I really like that song. I've liked it for a really long time. I agree with everything you said, actually, Amy, that there was too many pauses in it, but I like it so much I didn't care. I was like, this is great. I got like goosebumps. I was like, Cynthia, sing, girl. I thought they did such a good job with it. And she obviously has such a phenomenal voice. And when she could belt it out, I was just like, oh my God, goosebumps everywhere. I thought she did such a great job with that whole sequence, but particularly, the main part everybody knows. And also her like, so good. So good.
I agree. I feel like that is my number 1 as well. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm generic, but no, it's just like also it's anything I felt anything during this movie. It's that ending where you're like, wow, that's the film. That is why Wicked is as popular as it is. And I think especially when she's flying, I just think she does a really good job. I think the emotions are there. So I also like Defying Gravity.
My
Amy,
Wi-Fi cut out. But I think it's really interesting that both of you have Defying Gravity on your number 1, and you would expect that, again, it would be on my number 1, but it's not even in my top 5. You know what's kind of sad and wild? None of Cynthia's solos are, which they should be, because she's just absolutely amazing. But for me,
you didn't find
4
space
out of
for
the
her.
5. Yeah. 4 out of my 5 are about. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4 out of my 5 are group numbers. My number 1 is What Is This Feeling? It is an earworm. I can't get it out of my head.
It is.
I have the freaking choreography stuck in my head.
It's good choreography too.
Oh, it's
good choreography because it's not hard choreography. Like I think most people probably could do it. You know? Yeah.
I can walk around my house doing it like.
Yeah. The thing I loved about it, and I think, Kat, the reason that it doesn't have the queer vibes as much is the editing, where they're focusing on that antagonistic, that whole cafeteria scene, the book scene, the fighting scene.
And they have the power of the editing because it's a movie. It's not a play.
Yes. And they can edit to the part where it feels disconnected. So they feel disconnected. But I love the editing. I love the choreo. I love the song. This is one of the songs that when we were doing it, when I was in razzmatazz in freshman year of high school, we literally went and ordered specific outfits that were green and pink so that we could do this song back and forth and have different sides of.
Oh no, we had different sides, and that's what we know.
Different sides. There was
sides, different vibes.
Galinda side, the Elphaba side, green and pink.
Love it. Morgan.
I was hoping she was going to come back at that moment.
Oh no, she did. So different sides. That's what we heard.
Oh, I say just different sides of our choir. But anyway, that was it's a core memory for me. That whole sequence. The video exists somewhere on YouTube. You can see the San Francisco High School razzmatazz performing our Wicked medley. But that whole What Is This Feeling? It's that dancing through life, popular, one short day, doesn't matter what I'm doing, where I'm at, it will make me smile. And I think ultimately that's one of the beautiful things about this musical is there's so many different stories and so many different themes, but one of those themes is sometimes just find the joy where you can. Don't be afraid to find joy where you can. And in this day and age where there's so much going on, when you have that one song that you're listening to that just makes you smile, that is well worth diving into and just falling in love with. So that's why that means so much to me.
Honestly, great songs. Can't wait for part 2. And
me neither. It's coming out next year, right?
The same exact time, which is perfect.
Oh, I'm
perfect.
so excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be like the Thanksgiving.
Perfect.
And Lenny
I'm excited.
Agrees. Right?
I've decided that this is a Christmas film for me, just so you guys know. It might be a Christmas tradition. I'm literally gonna, this is my Christmas film. Okay,
nice.
I think we're gonna wrap up because it is past midnight for these girls on the East Coast.
And our Wi-Fi is dying.
Dude, clearly mine is also dying. It's not even midnight over here. So Morgan, where can people find you online?
You can find me as a co-host on Supergirl Radio, where we are also breaking for the holidays. But you can always check us out. We've been going through the Supergirl Rebirth comics, and we're still doing that, and we'll be doing that again in January when we come back from our holiday break. So come join us.
Kat, what about you?
Same, just enjoying the holiday, getting caught up with some work stuff, but you guys should get my book, Witches of Oz, so if you want to see Galinda and the Wicked Witch together, go check it out. It's a mature book. And yeah, it's our take on the Wizard of Oz, which is really fun. So go check it out. That's available on our website, lifelinecomics.com. And Amy will tell us.
Find me on Instagram at Amy. Did it freeze again?
It did, but we got you. We're finding you on Instagram.
Perfect. Amy_HYP. I'm in the market for some new Wi-Fi, so we will see how things go in the new year. Thank you guys so much for joining us this year. We really appreciate all of you guys. You can join us on Patreon, patreon.com/the legendary ladies. We do have a website. Like us on Instagram, The Legendary Ladies, Twitter, legends_podcast. Email us, thelegendaryladies@gmail.com. Email us your top 5. If you would like to have a in-depth discussion with me about Jonathan Bailey hanging off of a rotating library in that one scene and how he's actually dancing on actual books. How dare he? Please, you can also email us. Let's have a discussion. All right, that's going to do it for us. Thank you guys so much for joining us for our wicked conversation. We hope you have a wonderful, happy holidays, wonderful new year. We will see you in January. So, in the meantime, stay legendary.